Hi, Tova. How you, girl? Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I don't understand why my thing is not pinning. I'm glad that you caught me as well. Today we're going to be talking about herbal teas. And I don't know why everything is so dark. Glad you caught me as well. So I am waiting for my guest to come on. And there she is.
Hi,
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
I love your hair all up there. I love that.
Thank you.
How's your weekend been going so far?
Um, it's been really restorative in a way that I really needed.
Really?
Yes. How about yours?
Mine was busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did an event, a virtual event yesterday. Um, Black Girl Basel. It was a space created for creatives.
Mm.
And so they invited a bunch of us to a bunch of readers, about 4 or 5 of us,
Sorry.
to just be available. That's okay. To just be available for guests to the event to log schedule readings,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was pretty interesting. That was my first time ever doing something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good. And then last night I went out with Camille and another friend to celebrate her birthday. And now I'm here with you.
Really so glad.
Thank you for coming, on Sacred Conversations and talking to us about your brand and what it is and what it is not,
Mm-hmm.
and teaching us a bit about tea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a tea person, and you will find that most Caribbean people are,
That's right.
with the history of colonialism and what that stands for. And then also our grandmothers believing that a bush tea could cure all,
It's all.
right? Yeah, can cure everything. Anything, what ailment you have, you'll find them going out and picking something
Mm-hmm.
and soaking it in some hot water, and it would taste awful.
Yes. That's in Haiti. That's our thé à That's what it's called. The awful tasty bush tea that cures all.
Oh, cures everything. What do you got? They go some push some particular bush. What is this so important, you believe, to the African diaspora? Why this brew is so embedded in our culture and in our way of life? Why tea?
Hmm. I think that's a great question because what we consider tea is not necessarily what Western and Sometimes Eastern cultures consider tea. And, you know, when I think about what tea means for the African diaspora, it's a reflection and representation of our healing powers and the way we work with Mother Earth to provide healing to our community, right? So having our hands in the dirt, having our hands in the lands, allowing the different herbs to speak to us, allowing the different herbs to call us and to tell us what is needed for what ails our loved ones, that is a sacred practice. And therefore, tea for the African diaspora is a sacred beverage. And it's a beverage for healing. It's a beverage for taking care of yourself. We use tea for a multitude of reasons. We use tea for baths to heal ourselves. We use tea for steams to heal ourselves. We use tea, you know, to diffuse it. We use tea to drink it. So tea is really, for us, it's not green tea, black tea, you know, oolong tea, white tea. That is a kind of tea, right? But in Western culture, they would call what we make tisanes. That's what the French called it. When you have herbal blends, it's called a tisane, right? So if a Western person or a European person went to my website, they might say, these are all tisanes. She only has one tea here because there's only one tea with black tea in it, if that makes sense. Like there's only one blend here that could pass as tea for us. But when I think about the African diaspora and what tea means for us, it's a sacred and healing beverage that is taken with reverence, that is taken with honor to our ancestors, because these recipes have been passed down, right? And yeah.
I think fondly of a ritual that I have done 3 times, and where I was in, it's called mourning under spiritual Baptist faith. And we would be in seclusion for, well, different places have different time limits, but we will be in seclusion like for 6 nights, 7 days. You know, we can't see, the bandage up our eyes. You know, we don't take a shower, we don't brush our teeth. You know, we're just focused on a spiritual journey and communicating with our ancestors and with God. And up to a certain time, I remember my first time doing this, they prepared a tea for us. And this tea was to kind of help us move our system, because you're on a limited diet as well while you're in there. And I remember sniffing the tea first to see if I could pick up what was in it, right? And I remember sipping it and my face just went horrid. And my spiritual mother said, I don't care what you do, you better finish everything in that cup, right? And it became a situation for me, whereas I had to literally gather my wits to drink this thing, because I needed it to move my system, which was all part of the spiritual experience that it was going through. Because for me, part of my stress and how I, you know, go through spiritual things, whatever needs to be released, is sometimes within my colon. And this particular tea that I was blended with, I think, Cersei bush, shadow benny, a lot of things we would just put in a salad or whatever, was in here. And, you know, immediately you went to the bathroom. So even in some of these rituals and spiritual practices that we go through, tea is incorporated in there, even outside the regular, you know, you have to, because for me growing up, every morning I had to drink a cup of hot tea. We weren't leaving the house unless a cup of hot tea was part of our day. What would it be for you, the 5 top herbs that one should have in their kitchen, ready for a hot tea to brew? What would be the top five for you?
You know, I'll say top five herbs that I love, but I think that everybody should be thinking about, you know, their own system. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, I love having rose. Like I feel like rose petals are a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, red raspberry is a necessity, a staple. I need to be drinking it like every day. Rose for my heart. Rose helps you with grief. It helps you to love yourself. It helps you with forgiveness. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like these days I'm drinking a lot of rose. I'm drinking
Mm-hmm.
a lot of raspberry because the womb is your first mind. That's where your intuition is. That is where all of your creativity is. That is where like we're connecting with generations to come and generations that have been. So using red raspberry to tend to my womb has been important for me as a woman. Another one that I would highly recommend is oat straw, because oat straw coats the nervous system and it prepares the body for battle, if you will. Like it's just something that coats the nervous system, and I really appreciate that. I also think chamomile is something that I would want around no matter what. Chamomile is helpful for sleeping. Chamomile is helpful for um, just it's helpful for children. It's helpful for relaxing the body. It's just a nice herb to have before bed, and it's really nice in different, you know, blends, whether it's a soak or something you're ingesting or something you're diffusing. I think chamomile is something that everyone should have. I also, um, I feel like either ginger itself, like ginger root, the physical root, or just dried ginger root is something really nice to have too for the stomach, and just to cleanse the body. Ginger is such a helpful, I mean, I could go on and on. I feel like ginger tea is really lovely for digestion, it's really lovely for headaches, it's really lovely for quite a bit of things, but so far, I've said rose, raspberry, chamomile, oat straw,
Oh, sure.
ginger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Ginger is ginger root is something that I have in my home constantly.
Hmm.
I never allow myself to run out of it. So every supermarket run for sure there's ginger root here. And then I also have turmeric is another one um, that I am steadfast on making sure that's in my kitchen. So we have a question from Cinnamon Brown 18. How often do you recommend someone drink those herbs you recommend?
So honestly, like I do herbal consultation, so I think that it's important for you to have a blend that's tailored for you and your needs, because I'm not saying that someone should always drink those five herbs, right? What I
Mhm.
am saying is it's important to know what you're working through emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and learning the herbs that could support that. I think it's always lovely to keep ginger in the
Mhm. Your volume is gone.
I
Oh,
think
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
So I think that it's really helpful to think about what you need and to pay attention to the body and seeing which herbs are helpful for a moment of time or for an extended period of time. So doing herbal cures, so to speak, like, oh, I'm going to take this blend for 30 days for this particular thing and see how I feel. Or I'll always have ginger tea after I eat to help with my digestion, especially when I'm cleansing. Like things like that. Like really, really thinking about what you need this blend for and having those herbs ready to make it for yourself.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to also ask you about your brand in regards to when you do herbal teas with different intentions, right? And I'm very, what attracted me even more to your brand was that you have these blends specifically for a specific intention. Can you tell us how you decide on which intention you're going to work with, and the process in creating these blends?
So you asking two questions. What's the
Yeah.
intention? Wait, you said what's the process, and what's the first question?
The first question was your intentions. How do you come up with the intentions, which intentions you want to use for your blends?
Okay. So I saw someone ask a question for the rose. Do you use rosebuds or
Yes.
petals? I use both rosebuds and rose petals. And usually, like when you're getting them like ethically sourced or organic, like it all comes together. And you could use rosebuds and rose petals are usually like together when you get like organic, fair trade, ethically sourced herbs. So how do I come up with the different blends? In many ways, I am gifted them. And I am gifted them from spirit and my ancestors. Now, what do I mean by that? Is that when you are living, when I am living, whether it's a daydream or a physical dream when I'm sleeping, or if I'm writing, because I'm also a writer, I may get some information to start making a blend. And I'll think to myself, like, inner vision is a good example. Like, I was doing a lot of work on just opening my third eye chakra. Like, I was really focused on opening my third eye chakra. And I meditate daily. I have a daily meditation practice. I have a daily prayer practice. And I started to get these ideas for herbs, like get some valerian root and get some peppermint and mix it with lavender. And I was just like, what, do these things even go together? I remember thinking like, this sounds like I'm trying to focus on this project. And I keep having to create a space in the margin to write down what's coming to me. And then putting all of those herbs together and drinking it and going, wow, this is really helpful for me. Now, drinking it over time, researching it afterwards and going, these really complement each other. And then realizing I just can't take the credit for this. Like I just can't. That came to me. I think, some of my blends have come to me in really challenging times, like the intentions for the blends. Like active imagination was one that came to me when I was having a really hard time with writing. And I was just going through this process, this really deep process. And I was just recognizing like, I really need help with this. And I remember, again, I got this download of how to mix things and put things together. And I tried it and I started drinking it in addition to doing lots of other things. But like in 6 weeks, I had filled 6 journals. And I was just like, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for this blend. And I found myself being very creative. And that was the blend that actually started my business, because I was prompted to like share it with the world. So I started to not keep everything to myself, which I was sometimes asking myself, like, who do you think you are to like start this whole business, this herbal blend business, this intuitive herbal blend business? Like, what are your qualifications? And I would ask myself these questions, and I would have dreams like, who are you not to start this? This is the work we have assigned to you. Who are you not to? And what I learned is that if you don't do it, spirit and your ancestors are going to find somebody else to do it. But what I've also embraced is how much this process and setting these intentions are a part of my overall brand. So that's one way, like the downloads, things like that. Another way that I come up with blends is um, through my consultations with clients. So a client might say to me, I really need, like, I remember one client, she said, I am looking for a tea that feels like a grandmother's hug, not necessarily your grandmother, but a grandmother's hug when you just come out of church on a Sunday. And
Beautiful.
I remember thinking, okay, like what would the notes for that be? And then she started to tell me, like, I climbed up this mountain in Malaysia and I had this lovely tea and I just want to feel that experience again. And so what I did was, at that time I could do this, but she came over and I was blending the tea and she was trying it and I was adjusting it and I was having her like in the ritual of thinking about, how does the tea feel for you? How is it going for you? And finally she said, okay, there it is. That I have the feeling that I was looking for. So it's doing the thing I wanted to do. And that became Enchanted Embrace. Like that's what I called it. Because it did feel like, just this desire to have this, to be in this enchanted state and to feel like this divine feminine presence holding you. And so that's another way that I come up with blends. Or, another way that I come up with blends is that we like had a ritual party with Tea for Abundance. And so I had to go about meditating on researching and thinking about what would be an abundance tea. Like, what would that entail? And the interesting thing is that every single herb has a magical and spiritual property. Every single one. So when mixing herbs, you have to not only think about the science of it, like some herbs don't go well together, you shouldn't be mixing them, but you also want to think about when you put these things together, what are they designed to do, right? And so for abundance, it was, learning, researching, receiving, downloading the information of like which herbs promote manifestation and abundance in all things good, like, and what would be a nice concoction for that, like what would be something that brings that together. So those are just 3 different ways that I come up with different blends: through intuition and inspiration, through consultation, and through partnerships.
Yeah. So I come to you for a consultation and we talk and you recommend a blend for me.
Right? I create it for you.
You create it for me, yes. And let's say, well, someone like me with intuition, how do I incorporate drinking this tea for intuition? Like with that, is it a certain time of the day? Like how would I go about incorporating this tea if I want to, improve my intuition or enhance my intuition? What does that look like?
Okay, so you're thinking about if you came to me and you said, Lune, I would like a tea for intuition. And I not only want a tea for intuition, I also want a ritual for drinking that tea. So first we would go about making the tea for intuition, and we would delve into what you mean by intuition, right? Because words are signals, and what I've realized is that sometimes we may use the same word and they mean different things to us. So I would have you talk me through, like, what is intuition to you? What does that mean? What would it look like for your intuition to be at its optimal performance and state. And so I would go through asking you all of these questions, taking notes of like your desired outcome. And then I would ask you about your lifestyle. Like, when do you drink tea? And when do you drink tea? And when do you create opportunities to cultivate your intuition? Like, what does cultivating your intuition outside of tea look like? And how can we fit that tea in? Because the thing is, with helping people create rituals, every single person is different. Right. And honoring the difference that I don't want to say like, oh, you need to wake up and have your tea in the morning. Although some teas are actually better in the morning if the desire is like to boost your energy, like unless you're like working the night shift, then we need to give you that tea at night. So I think it's really thinking about like, what is this person's lifestyle? What does this person mean by this intention? And where can this person fit this ritual into their life?
Okay.
And not prescribing like you need to have it every day at 12, for example.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Why did tea choose you?
Yeah. I feel like tea chose me for a couple of reasons that might sound really wild. One is I feel like I've been preparing for healing work for lifetimes, particularly like this alchemy. There's something about doing this work where I'm like, how did I know that? Like, so it feels like there's a curation of certain skills for lifetimes. Now, that might not, some people might not get that, but I feel that, right? Like, I feel like, wait, I think tea chose me because it's my genius. We all have a genius, right? And it's whether or not you tap into it. And so you get chosen because it's like, this is going to come through this vessel in this way because they could actually do this work. So I think tea chose me for that. But I also think that tea chose me because my ancestors chose me. And my ancestors decided that this is the work we want you to do. So it's like past lives, spirit, and my ancestors. That's the three things that are coming up for me in terms of why tea chose me. It's very humbling. It's very overwhelming at times. I think when I recognize that it's not me, that's when my confidence rises. When I could get out of the way and allow the information to come through me, and when I invest in myself and continue to study, and I'm obedient to this calling, because it takes a level of discipline and obedience, right? I feel like tea chose me years ago, and I was just like, sure, I'll make it for myself. And I would make it for family and for friends. And so many times people would say to me, you could sell this, right? And I would go, oh no, I can't sell this. This is something I do for you all. Like this is just for friends and family. And it's like, finally, with support, of really good friends, and with the support and belief in myself, I said, I'm going to step into this calling, and there's nothing for me to be afraid of, So
hence the birth of your company.
Hmm?
Hence the birth of your company.
Yes, hence the birth.
Lune. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, so Lakai means home in Haitian Creole, and Lune means moon, actually in French, because Arlène is the Creole name for moon. My mom always calls me Moon, and ever since I was a little child, that's the nickname that she gave me. I always saw having Lakai Lune as like my home, the space where I practice herbalism, the space, like a space for healing, a space for doing inner work, a space for being in community. like communing with others. And so I always saw home as a sanctuary and a sacred place. And Lune is like my inner child. I'm playing. So when I'm practicing herbalism, I'm joyful and I'm playing and I'm happy. And I could feel the presence of my ancestors. Like, it makes me emotional. I could transmute so much pain through the practice of herbalism. So that's where Lune comes from. That's my inner child. So it's like, welcome to my inner child's home. This is practice. This is medicine. This is play. And really, Lakai Lune is the way that I pay respect and tribute to my ancestral heritage. It's the way that I honor my ancestral lineage, because I I come from a line of farmers. I come from a line of herbalists. I come from a long line of people who had their hands in the dirt. And in the rural community of Ansavo in Haiti, they would use the help of spirit and the ancestors, the Lois as we call them in Haitian Creole. They would use the help of ancestors and spirits like Grand Bois, who's the healing Lois, the medicine Lois, the herbal Lois, and they would get help to heal things. No doctors for like 4 hours. You know, these women were midwives. They tended to their family. So when I think about Lakai Lune, it's really honoring my grandfather's courage, my grandmother's wisdom, and all of the ways that they continue to share that with me.
I'm loving the way you are explaining to us your brand, your product, your teas, because it's important for consumers to know the energy that goes in when you are one, doing a consultation, and when you are two, just creating a blend, whether it is specific to them or whether it is something that you're just creating a blend of abundance or for intuition or for prosperity. And I must say, sitting listening to you, that I am moved personally by the energy that I'm getting as you create these blends. And I think folks really need to understand, when as spiritualists, what we have to go through spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically when we are positioning ourselves and 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 communicating with the ancestors, communicating with our spirit guides as to basically what we are going to do for our client, right? And in your case is when you're creating these blends. I am very moved by the process in which you go about in 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 doing this creation. Um,
Thank you.
your family is from Haiti,
Yes.
and a place that I a place that is magical for me. What living in a household, a Haitian household in the US, how has that influenced you in creating this brand, in you creating your teas, in you living your life period as a spiritualist?
Yeah. This is like, if I shed a tear, it's because it's so personal. That's an emotional one.
I fully understand what that is.
That makes me emotional for a few reasons. The first one is it's hard to grow up in America as a first generation child. It's incredibly hard. It's hard because my dad is very much connected to the land and connected to the ancestors. I mean, he has a garden. You know, his brothers and sisters are like very connected to this. And I think what makes the reason why I'm getting emotional is because I spent so much of my childhood trying to know what things mean. That's hard. That's hard because it's like, here's this herb. What is that thing? Like, what's the English equivalent? Like, you know? Or we're going to put this, like, there's in Haitian culture, so much of it is intuitive, so much of it is trusting. And in American culture, everything has to be validated. And you have to know what something means. You have to be able to name it. You have to be able to explain what's in it. And so I felt, and as someone who loves writing and loves to know the name of things, to be able to communicate effectively with others, I think that was the biggest hurdle. One of the biggest hurdles. That's a pretty loaded question, and it makes me emotional because the second hurdle is that in effort to be American, there was a lot that my parents had to give up. So when my father saw how I would go into his garden and pick herbs and ask him questions and pay attention and try to figure out what things mean, he would, one, get frustrated sometimes because he couldn't always explain it, but two, he would get very emotional, and he has wept and said, wow, they chose you because of the patience that I have in understanding. Like, I've even like downloaded apps to be like, oh, you're growing this is what it's called. Like, you know, like I've known the Haitian names of herbs before the English names. And so that, the language, the need to assimilate and therefore lose parts of themselves. Like, there are some practices that I've engaged in that my dad's like, there's no way you could know that. There's no way you could know that, because I never, like, ever since I was a child, he would say things like that. Like, how did you know to do that? I kept that from you because it felt really taboo in this place, you know? Like, I kept ancestor veneration from you. But here you are, setting a table for your ancestors. Here you are, serving them tea. Like, I kept that from you. How did you, like, how do you know to do it? And so I think it's the assimilation into the culture and the language barrier that has been most challenging. And I think that was the question, like, what's been really challenging, or what is it like for you? But what's powerful is that I see it all as a privilege now, because I really know who I am. And even though it took time for me to accept or be like, oh, like, can't we just take some Advil around here? Here we go with your infused oils. You know, like seeing my mom with her little bucket and her infused like lemon peel oil, olive oil, and I'm just like, what is that? Ew. So like all life, I would watch them do all of these different things, and I would think, you know, as a teenager, I was just like, gross. But the gross was like me trying to fit in, because on the back end, I was always intrigued, and I was always like a child, like watching with awe, watching with curiosity, replicating some of the things that I saw. So I think the gift of it is like knowing who I am now, and becoming even more of that, you know, more and more each day. But it was incredibly challenging as a child. And there continues to be challenges. Like I still have many challenges, but yeah, that was an emotional question. That one struck a chord.
Oh, I consider your parents superheroes, as to still maintain certain traditions in the sacred space of their home, and raising you, and still maintain certain practices, um, because as we all know, Haitians as immigrants get the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is, and I admire them for still holding on to certain things,
Yeah.
even being faced with the ridicule and the stereotype and the myths that come along with being Haitian, period.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And from Barbados, I didn't realize it was that way for Haitians until I migrated to this country. Right?
Until what?
And I didn't realize the energy that it was here for Haitian Americans until I migrated to this country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And to actually see it unfold was very traumatic in a sense, because I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you understand the history of this place and what they have done for the movement of Black people to rise up and be like, we ain't taking this shit anymore? Haiti was the birthplace of the movement. They started it first.
Yes, we did.
And so these are things that I get. That is why it was important for me for you to explain what goes into you creating these blends, because folks need to know what we go through emotionally and spiritually when we are creating, well, in your sense, creating a blend, and for me, just spiritually reading someone, what our whole systems go through to get to the place of understanding the information that we're receiving. Mm-hmm. Right? And sometimes that is missed by a lot of people, and it frustrates me many times, but that's another show. What can we look forward to with your brand? What's going on for 2021?
So I'm one of those people who really take it day by day. But I do have a grand vision, and I think some of the things that come up to mind initially is providing opportunities for education, like teaching more about herbs. So having a social media presence where I am doing that work, teaching just more about healing work, like really allowing my teaching capabilities and gifts as an educator to transfer to this work, and providing content around that. I'm also in 2021 creating bundles of samples so that people could try, like, do tea tastings at home. Like tea tasting boxes are something that are coming very soon, so that people could have like 5 or 6 blends that they just try with their family. And also I have a box in the works that includes like a holistic way of caring for oneself. So whether that's with an oil, a tea, a bath, and a candle, like just having an intention box for clients that's coming up. And just continuing to strengthen my practice, and just allow, I think in 2021, it's really allowing myself to be in full alignment and moving confidently in what is for me, like getting out of the way. 2021 is about getting out of the way, showing up more, even though it's not perfect, like just showing up. And but I'm really excited about the tea tasting box as well as the intention.
You're kind of getting my event planning stuff energized, because I'm thinking, well, maybe for spring we could host a tea party.
Oh, I would love that. I think that you just align with Spirit, because I literally said to Spirit, I really, for my birthday, I just want a rooftop tea party with...
When is your birthday?
May 1st.
Okay, good. So I have the rooftop on top of my building.
Oh,
right?
Goodness.
I have access to, that's where I was going to have the tea party. So the tea party, you have access, if I'm still here, that is. But even if I'm not, I think I'll still have access to it. But I have this amazing rooftop. You can see the Empire State Building from it.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, you can see the Empire State Building from it. And we have full access. The elevator goes straight to the roof. And whatever theme you want, girl, we just show and we whatever you want. So it's
I
on.
want to dress up, wear
Yeah,
hats, like really, like, you know, I want something just bougie as could be, but like hood.
Hello, that is right up my alley. Bougie.
Yes, but you heard me say a little bit of hood bougie. You know, I don't want it to be too uptight, but I want it to be very bougie nonetheless. So I would just love. I just imagine like the teacups and the teapots and the different kinds of appetizers. Oh, it's just gonna be so classy.
Yes. So the next, I'm in Prospect Heights. So anytime you're in the area, you just message me or call me. I mean, she's Simone, I'm around. Can I see the rooftop? And you can come up and see if it is of your liking. And then if anyone needs to use the bathroom, they can just take the elevator down to the basement and use the bathroom in the basement and then tell the elevator back. But it's a beautiful. I was there during the quarantine, during everything. I was on that roof. And it was just a select friends of mine, like 7 of us. You know, we would just go to the liquor store and and go up on the roof. And go up on the roof. And then 4th of July weekend, you know, all of us, some of my neighbors here in the building, we were up there and I made like homemade hamburgers and we just hang out and watch the fireworks. But you're welcome to come and check out the roof. And if it's up to you, we can have that tea party. I can't wait. I'm already ready to go shopping for my hat. Tell us where we can find you, where we can find your brand, where we can purchase your teas, how we can go about getting a consultation.
Yeah,
so
I'm just gonna put it.
How we can find you.
I'll put it here as well.
I tried pinning it, but it wouldn't go through.
Oh, I'm just gonna put it in the comments.
Okay.
And then,
but even when I post the interview, it's going to be in there as well. But you can still let folks know.
Yeah, I'm gonna let them know in the chat and then say it out loud. So, can you still see me?
Of course.
Okay, great.
I love your logo, by the way. I think it's very sexy.
Why, thank you. Thank you.
I love it. Yeah. I always like that. I love this logo. But you go ahead.
I appreciate you saying that. So you could find me at www.lakailune.com. That's where you could shop for all of my products. I started a page called Lakai Lune on Facebook, and I also have my Instagram at Lakai Lune. So Lakai is spelled L-A-K-A-Y. Lune is spelled L-U-N-E. So keep those together, and you could just Google Lakai Lune. You could look up Lakai Lune on Instagram or on Facebook, and you'll find me. And it's really a journey. I launched on February 1st of 2020. So it's...
Oh, you launched this year?
No, I launched this year. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you've been around for a while. It just feels so old in a good way. Like the energy is like, she's been here doing this for a minute, Simone. I didn't know that the business is that new.
Yes, it's very new.
That's amazing.
I launched February of 2020. I actually launched at an envisioning party. My friend's envisioning party. Yes, I can absolutely ship to Haiti. I ship internationally. So I launched on February 1st of 2020 at the same time that my good old sister friend Keisha launched Bold Hues. We launched on the same day.
Yeah, I remember Keisha. Yes, her boxes are amazing.
Yes. She does so many amazing things. So Yeah, it's really been interesting because I launched February 1st of 2020, and then I had like tea ceremony parties after tea ceremony parties. I for like each weekend in February, I was just doing something else. As soon as I launched, it's like my business just took off, and then COVID hit, and we had to figure out like what are we going to do, like how are we going to sustain this business. And what I quickly learned is like that's something that I could be thinking about, but also allowing the ancestors and spirit to guide me with. And I really feel supported in it. And I really have faith in how this is all going to continue to unfold. I
Oh
really,
yeah, I folks like us who are focused on helping people work from inside out.
that's it. That's the name of my box.
Oh, inside out.
Yes.
Oh wow,
Yes.
that's very in the mix
Mm-hmm.
for sure. For us, folks are going to need us,
Mm-hmm.
especially as we move through 2021 with figuring out a vaccine, figuring out who's going to have it first, figuring out if you're going to take it or not,
Mm-hmm.
and individuals who who are whose work is to keep folks spiritually grounded and help them to keep spiritually grounded. We're going to be around forever. And I remember when the quarantine hit, herbal stores were busy. Some of them even had to shut down. Some of them even had to um, limit the amount of things you ordered online, and because there was a backlog of stuff coming in. So moving forward, girl, you're gonna be busy.
Well, I
You're gonna be
welcome it.
busy.
I welcome it. And I think
Yeah.
what's important for me is that, yes, I have the teas. Yes, I'm going to be expanding with tinctures and all kinds of other things. But what's important to me is teaching and writing with this, like
Yeah.
keeping that at the forefront, educating people and providing those spaces for people to heal. Like, I really want to have um, to develop a holistic brand that is not just product driven, it's
Yeah.
experience driven. Um,
Yes.
and providing people with transformative experiences and doing the healing work alongside them is really something that I see myself doing and know that I need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I was really looking forward to it. As I've told you before, I'm a bad tea person.
Yeah.
At my old job at 3 o'clock, everybody, oh yeah, it's 3 o'clock now. Simone's going to the kitchen to make a cup of tea, and I really appreciate you coming on board. Yola PR is here saying serving humanity, and that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
That is so true. And I also want us to remember, as spiritual people, as we take care of others, we also have to take care of ourselves.
Yes. And I think I say yes and serving humanity and serving spirit, because it's like sometimes when we serve humanity, they are not always impressed, right? Like humans can have some really lower expressions and can be very discouraging. And I know that as a small business owner who, just launched at the beginning of this year, that if I focus solely on serving humanity, I don't get that far. But when I focus on serving something greater of myself in the service of collective upliftment, like then I'm like, I can't stop moving. So I nod to that and I say, and serve humanity. And when you get discouraged by the way humanity is existing, make sure you remember that you are serving spirit first. You are working for something bigger and greater than you, something because people have not sustained me in this time.
Ashe, Ashe,
Hmm.
Ashe.
Yeah, right? Because
They're
usually
going to
who you
tell you.
serve should be able to sustain you.
Hmm.
And, you know, it's spirit, it's God and the ancestors who have sustained me.
Hmm. Same thing here. Same thing here. And for me, in my experience of coming out as a spiritualist, they had to literally bring me to my knees
Mm-hmm.
for me to get to this space, right? Because I was surrounded by individuals who, if they look down on individuals like myself, right? Who communicates with spirits, who talk to the ancestors. I had a spiritual mother. She would describe me as, she says, well, Simone talks to the dead like how I'm talking to you. Like they just started hanging out with her, you know? And for many, many years, I put myself in a box and would just lean on spirituality when there was a problem, lean on spirituality when I needed something, lean on only in time of need, and would like, okay, I'll give you a little this, I'll give you a little. It was always like a bartering system with
Mm-hmm.
spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And until they said, well, Simone, we're tired of that now. Can we just come out and play like, And I'm like, no, you can't do that. They're like, okay. So and everything was taken from me. Every single thing was taken from me. I lost friends. I lost money. It was a very hard time for me to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And and when you say serving spirit, that is paramount.
It's key.
That is so true. That is so true. And every morning when I see things developing in my life, all this week was a blessing. Although I'm tired as hell, the entire week has been a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And Spirit has put people in front of me and next to my left and to my right and behind me and says, okay, Simone, this is how you're going to move forward.
Right.
Right? This is how it's going to work for you. This is what you're going to do with this person. This is what you're going to do with that person. And you don't mix things.
That's right.
You don't mix things. I work with many Babas,
Hmm.
right? But there's only one Baba who I go to for my readings. There's only one Baba who handles my rituals. There's only one Baba who can handle my initiations. And that is the same person.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember not to be long-winded, but for some reason, Spirit saying this is important.
It is.
I remember someone saying to me, well, you could go to that other Baba to get stuff done. I says, no, 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 that's not his role.
Hmm.
The Spirit said his role is to do X, Y, and Z. Arlene, I can tell you, I have the word I have gotten yesterday was from a woman I met at a talk late last year. We didn't even get to speak after the panel discussion, but Spirit came to me with a message for her. And I reached out to her on IG. Let me show you how Spirit works. Huh? I reached out to her on IG. And I said, I was at your panel discussion, but, there's some stuff I need to talk to you. And she responded immediately and she said, oh, yes, I heard your voice. And Spirit spoke to me as I was speaking, as you were, yeah, we got to talk. And we started communicating. And her ancestors came as we were talking, and I had a message for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, she says, oh, I'm going to send you something for talk for, you giving me this message. And I told her, no. I said, this is not a money thing. I'm not to take any money from you. Right? Fast forward a few months. She called me. She says, I got a gig for you. This girl needs I have a gig. I said, okay. She put me on to the person. I worked a weekend, and that weekend was fruitful for me.
Wow.
That weekend was fruitful for me. She
Yeah.
called back again, another gig yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That gig was fruitful for me as well.
Yeah, because
you have to know
you don't
when.
yeah,
Go ahead. No, you say.
I was just gonna say, like, spirit pays us in many ways, and we have to pay attention to money isn't the only form of currency, and it's really a low vibrational way of exchanging energy with people. Like, we can, it's sort of, I think, as you were talking, what I was hearing and reflecting on is this idea that when we are working with humanity, like spirit will have us do the work that is for everyone's collective upliftment if we allow
Correct.
ourselves to be vessels and channels for that work. And what I'm
Correct.
hearing is that you allowed yourself to be a vessel and a channel for that, and you communicated what spirit and her ancestors had to say to her. And I think that that's something that's changing and shifting in our world, because when, as you said before, when you are operating from solely the ego, it could feel like a bartering system, like spirit, do this for me
Yeah.
and I'll do that. It could feel really tricky. But when you are operating from a place of wanting to transmute the circumstance, transcend the circumstance, help yourself, help others, then you could help spirit, most importantly, then you could receive the compensation, right?
Correct.
And for you, it came in the form
Correct.
of gigs. But there's so many,
Yeah.
we could look at, compensation in the love that we have around us,
Yeah.
compensation in the things that our friends do for us that other people would have to like pay for, in the relation, in the people that like spirit puts in our lives, the relationships that help us to become our highest selves. We could see compensation also in the things that don't work, in those messages that are like, stay away from that,
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think,
And time, I tell people a lot, time and energy is important,
yes.
right? And my spiritual father had to remind me, Simone, there is a lot of people that do not respect time and they do not respect your energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is that, and I've had a hard lesson in learning boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to learn those boundaries.
Boundaries.
And I had a hard lesson in learning who is working for spirit like me, because I've learned that the people who work for spirit, they're not just takers. So when you
Mhm.
talk about time and energy, there are people who will literally just take your time and energy because they're operating on a very like human level, right? Like the this notion of like, what could I give for this? Where could I, and we live in a society that really promotes narcissism. So,
Yeah.
when you find people who are operating in spirit, they want to give and take. Like there's the
Yeah.
balance, there's the
Yeah.
equanimity in the relationship, and there's the mutual support, and all of
Mhm.
these things.
You're on point.
Oh, sorry about
Okay.
that. I just think it's
Mhm.
important for us to be aware of that. Like, I feel like Spirit's putting it on my heart to say, like, take an inventory of your relationships, and whether they are familial, in terms of business, in terms of
Mhm.
partnerships. Um, just notice, where's that give and take happening, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and again, knowing that you can have a situation like you, Simone, where
Mhm.
you realize, I do something for this woman and
Mhm.
spirit blesses me with like 3 gigs, and you could
Mhm.
know that engaging in that with that woman was a blessing, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
to come from her. Spirit does the same thing for us. We may be in a relationship, it's not good or bad, we may be in a relationship that doesn't serve us, and spirit will punish us. It's like, Dag, as soon as I
Yeah.
left your house, I got into a car accident. That is
Yeah.
also a sign that you need to get away
Yeah.
from that person. So I think when
Correct.
we talk about give and take, it's like not just the person. I want to be clear about that. It's also like the energy around it, and whether um, that energy is bountiful for you, like beneficial
Yes.
and bountiful. So
Yes.
that was a
And
little bit.
I felt that way when I did the gig with you and Camille. Camille of Essence of Ashe.
Mm-hmm.
The energy there was, and the topic was abundance. The focus on it and the intention was abundance. And I won't stay too long because
Mm-hmm.
I have something for two.
Yeah.
But the intention was abundance. And what I got from that was your energy, the energy of Camille, and and the women that we served. Although we were there to give to them, they also need to know that they give to us as well. I don't know if you're seeing me because your pause on my end. Right. They
I
give
see
the
you now.
folks who came, yeah, the folks who came, the folks who registered, who showed up, they give to us. Well, let me speak to myself. They give to me as well. And that exchange is very important. Is very, very important. And I, Camille and I are working on something for my birthday weekend,
When is your birthday?
which we do January 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm Capricorn. Unfortunately, we can't go on the roof. But we're working on actually a ritual party. I don't know why I'm not calling it what it is. Right? So we're gonna have, of course, well, we haven't told you yet, but you're a part of it.
Oh, well, excuse me.
We really need to ask you first, but we're like, oh yeah, she's gonna be a part of this. But I want certain topics like this to be discussed because listen to me, there are very few of us in this game. One. And two, there are very few of us in this game that are authentic. If it wasn't for women like you, like Camille, like my girlfriend Simone, and the same lady, I don't want to call her name because I don't know if she wants me to discuss
Right.
it.
Sure.
And these other women that have shown up and prop me up
Yes.
with what I'm doing.
Yes.
Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be here.
That's right. Because we need each other. We support
We
each
need
other.
each
We
other.
uplift each other. That's exactly how I feel
Yes.
about Camille. Like she's my
And knowing
spiritual
that
sister.
Black women are the most endangered species right now
Seriously.
that's running things. This energy is important. Camille knows if someone wants Ricky, that's where they're going. I ain't
Correct.
sending them anywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If somebody wants Steve, that's where they're going. I ain't sending them anywhere else. And even for my spiritual father, if they need an Ifa reading, because he takes care of me, I'm gonna have him take care of you. I have to trust you and know that you are in the right spirit and energy and are gonna do right by the people who I am around.
Right.
And that's how and that's how I've been moving through this because I was coming from a time where I was helping people with their other projects and they were blossoming and making money before I came to this space. And then I was like, I'm tired of this shit. I'm gonna do my own thing and make my own money. But I wasn't doing spirit work. I wasn't doing what I was doing now. I was off doing my own thing and I failed miserably.
Look at that. But you learned.
It
was all a lesson.
It was all a lesson. And I had to come out of the space of when people attach themselves to me, they blossom. And I'm feeling like, okay, I'm so happy for you, which I am. But then I'm just feeling depleted because my own dreams and goals were not manifesting.
Right, because you had to honor yourself.
I had to
honor yourself and recognize that you don't just have to be of service to others. You have to be of service to spirit. And when you are of service to spirit, then you live in your divine calling and divine purpose. And everything you need is taken care of.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yes. And you deserve to be paid to help people to blossom. And that's what you do through your readings. So I do have to go. I have another call actually, but I'm so grateful for this time. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so grateful that Camille, the owner of Essence of Ashe, connected us. And I look forward to continue growth and flourishing. I know that you will do nothing but soar in the work that you're doing as well, because by you filling your cup and it's running over into all of our cups. So thank you for
doing this. As well. And we'll get back to, well, Camilla, I will get back to you about the whole birthday weekend thing,
Yes,
and
get back to me. Let me
make
know
that
as soon
happen.
as you can. I'm so excited.
Yes, we will. We will. Thank you, and you have a great day.
Okay, take care.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye bye.